Welcome back, everybody. I'm Adam Lowe, and if you listened before, you know I can talk about the towpath all day.
And I'm Chris Earl. If it's an ultra, a backyard, or some ridiculous running challenge, I'm probably signing up for it.
And I'm Katie Lowe. I love all things running, but my specialties are run streaking and the beer mile.
Together, we're here to share the stories that make running such an incredible community.
From local legends to elite athletes, race directors, and everyday runners, we'll cover the highs, the lows, and everything in between.
So whether you're out for a run, driving to your next race, or just hanging out, thanks for joining us.
This is Tales on the Towpath. Let's get started. All right, Chris and Katie, I am super excited about today's podcast. And when I talked to Katie about the podcast like last week, she said, I'm always excited about the podcast. That's like my line. And she's right. But today I'm super excited. We have one of our good friends on here, and he is one of the main reasons that I am physically still able to run today. He has been instrumental in my last 4 years of running, and I just cannot wait to get his take on some of the items that we have to go over today. Without further ado, we have from Elite Performance Institute, we have John Pugh with us today. So, John, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. I don't know that I can live up to that intro, but I will do my best to give some sort of nugget that people can take away. But you painted a big picture right there.
Well, I think like our listeners, I think some of them know that in 2022, I ran the towpath and wound up in the hospital. And that October, I found my way to EPI for the very first time. And I remember being at the emergency room or the hospital when when they gave me my discharge papers and they told me I had to go to physical therapy. And no offense to like 70 or 80-year-old men and women, but when they said physical therapy, that's what I envisioned I was going to have to go do and like learn how to read walk with like a bunch of 70 and 80-year-old people. So walking into EPI for the first time, it was completely different. Well, I should say limping into EPI for the first time was way different than what I expected. So that was about 4 years ago, and I've been working with you ever since. So yeah, like I said, I'm excited. I think you have a ton of stuff to offer our audience here, so I'm pretty excited about it. But enough about me and EPI. Let's talk about you and EPI. So let's go a little bit about your sports background growing up first.
Yes, sports has always been a huge part of my life, and ultimately is what, how I landed to be a physical therapist. So I played, I guess, quote unquote, the traditional sports growing up, football, basketball, baseball, kind of bounced back and forth season to season. In high school, got to my sophomore year and decided to cut out basketball so I could primarily focus on the baseball things, but continue to play football because that was really my passion. Had an injury, an ankle injury my junior year. I think that was my first exposure to physical therapy and kind of like light bulb moment for me and was the motivation to me pursuing that as a career. I always knew that I wanted to do something in sports, but I was also realistic enough to know that I had a little bit of talent, but certainly not enough to make a living doing any sort of playing. So I wanted to find some way of staying involved in athletics and being surrounded by like-minded people. And yeah, so I was in PT one day working on my ankle, and it just kind of clicked with me and like, man, this is kind of interesting. I might want to look into this a little bit more, and rest is history. So went to college, played baseball there, majored in athletic training, got a good background with obviously working with athletes and sports and orthopedic injuries. After undergrad, went to physical therapy school to get my doctorate, and the whole time knew that eventually, like, sports, athletics, like that was going to be my specialty. there's a lot of different ways. So a lot of different routes you can go with the physical therapy degree. But I knew my passion lied with working with athletes. So I think maybe three or 4 years after I graduated, I sat for my board certification in sports physical therapy. I honestly do not know how many people have that certification in the state of now, but at the time I was the sixth, and I will take that to the grave. I was pretty excited about that in the entire state. I was the sixth board certified sports physical therapist. So it's not an easy thing to do, but also not an insanely difficult thing to do if you put your mind to it and prepare for it. Devote your career to what we're doing.
John, tell us a little bit about EPI, how you got it started and how it's grown, and what kind of services you offer to the running community.
Yeah, so Thomas Burge and I started EPI in 2017. So we're creeping up on 10 years of being in business, which is really kind of wild to think about. But in all honesty, that kind of started a year or two before that. I was working at another physical therapy clinic. I have always been a huge advocate for post rehab strength training. I think that building strength for really any human being, but especially for athletes, it's a huge piece to the puzzle. And throughout my early physical therapy career, especially, I saw a lot of repeat customers. They come in and you do the rehab thing, and their pain goes away, and they jump right back on the field or the court or the trail or the road, whatever their sport happens to be. And a few months later, they show back up, and man, my pain came back. And usually that was because they didn't follow up with the recommendations. And when I started my career, I was in Charlottesville, Virginia, and we had a gym associated with a big, like, commercial gym. So there was a little bit of kind of follow through with some of my patients, but not to the same extent that it is currently. But yeah, so when I moved up here, that was really important to me to develop a relationship with a strength coach that I could trust and send my clients to, that would essentially be a continuation of their rehab. It's kind of a cliche term at this point, but that concept of bridging the gap between what physical therapy can offer and being field or court ready. There's a big gap there. So Thomas and I met through a mutual client, I guess. Angie was born and raised in this area, knew a lot of people. And so I don't remember exactly how long I had been here, but it was fairly early, still getting to know a lot of people. So it was time for her to kind of make that transition from the rehab to the performance training side. And she knew a lot of strength coaches. So, like, this is a perfect situation. I want you to set up an appointment with everyone that you know and go to the first day, come back, and let's talk about what they did. And Thomas was the only one that took her through any sort of assessment to see kind of what she was dealing with at that time. And what is her movement capacity? What do we need to do to get the most out of her? Everybody else just kind of threw her into a workout. And keep in mind, she's coming off of a major knee surgery. So it's kind of important to understand what that looks like, how the rehab was, and all that kind of stuff. So long story short, she came back to me and we talked about that. And I said, Thomas is the guy. You gotta stick with him. Let's see what he can do. And a month or so goes by. She comes back to me for another follow-up and says, you really need to meet this guy. I think you are very like-minded. I think you'll really hit it off. So Thomas and I sat down and met. We discussed and discovered that we had a lot of the same philosophies. And yeah, we just really struck up a friendship and started sending more and more clients his way. And it was probably a year and a half later, called him up and said, hey, I've got something I need to chat with you about and see what you think. So we met up on the idea that is Elite Performance Institute now. And he thought about it for a short period of time, like a few hours, and was like, hey, let's do it. Yeah, let's see if we can make it work. So yeah, the rest is history. 10 years later, we're rocking and rolling. So I guess I didn't fully answer the question. So what we offer is sports physical therapy and sports performance training. We have some adult fitness thrown in there. That's the kind of the bread and butter. We really work with any sports medicine, orthopedic injuries, mainly catering. Obviously we throw around the word sports, physical therapy, and athletes and all that kind of stuff. And we certainly have some patients that don't necessarily consider themselves athletes, which I completely disagree with. I think athlete has a lot of different definitions. If you're active, healthy, and want to remain active, and your injury is keeping you from doing the things that you want to do, then you're an athlete. And we are the place that is going to help get you back to that activity. So whatever that activity happens to be, I think our approach is, we try to get people back to the things that they love to do as quickly as possible, as safely as possible, and with long-term success in mind.
So, John, my history with you goes back to about 6 months before Adam started with you. And I'm actually the reason why Adam knew to
There
come
you
to
go.
you. Thank you very
You're
much. So give
you're
credit
the
where
OG.
credit's due, Adam.
Yeah.
But I actually found you through two of our friends. I was having a shin issue that was really stopping my running almost because I didn't want to fully stop.
You
But
didn't break that streak.
they said, nope, I did not. And thanks to you in large
Yeah.
part, multiple times. However, they said, have you thought about physical therapy? This is who you need to go see. And they said, get in touch with John and the guys at EPI. He's not going to tell you to necessarily stop running unless you have to. They work with athletes all the time. So for our listeners, maybe who haven't been to physical therapy before, what would a PT that works with athletes and runners actually, or what do you guys do differently than general physical therapy?
Yeah.
Hey,
I think we try.
John,
Yep. Go ahead, Adam.
hey, give me 1 second. Before you answer that question, I have to give credit where credit is due and tell our listeners that Katie is the reason why I know almost anything. Okay. So let's make sure that's clear first. Okay. And then you can go ahead and answer a question. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good distinction. I appreciate you giving her the credit.
Me too.
Yeah, I think our approach is that we try to meet our clients where they are. Yeah, I think the traditional medical model, unfortunately, often recommends the dreaded word rest, which for them means stop doing all things. And I completely disagree with that philosophy. I think temporarily modifying activity, maybe doing slightly less of it, depending on, there's a lot of different situations that dictate, how active you can remain in your sport. Obviously, the injury will play a role in that. I mean, if you have a fracture, then it doesn't matter what our philosophy is. Like, you have to
Yeah.
unload that, right? But for most, like, quote unquote overuse or gradual onset types of injuries, I think there's to continue being active and essentially kind of compromising while we work on getting you back to full strength and 100% healthy. I don't think rarely is rest the answer.
So how do I know, John, then, like, what's the difference between like my normal training soreness or like pain telling me that something's wrong and I should make an appointment or I should come get some help?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question. And honestly, it's different for every single person. And you're probably going to hear me say that type of thing often as we go through this, because that's our approach. We don't really make like blanket statements across the board because it just, the rules don't apply to everybody. But I think as a general rule, you'll know, is kind of a silly way of answering that question. But obviously if there's something new, it's very focal, very pinpoint, small area, might be an indication. Whereas like kind of general wear and tear, muscle soreness, post exercise or post activity tends to be a little bit more general, widespread, throughout the entire muscle. You may notice that it's bilateral, meaning both sides. So like I always use the analogy of, or the comparison with squats. Like everybody that's active has gone to the gym for the first time in a long time and done a bunch of squats, and then they can't hardly sit down or stand up for the next 2 or 3 days, right? And that soreness is bilateral. It's not that just one butt cheek hurts. It's both, right? And running is a series of unilateral movements, but you're doing equal reps on both sides. So some general bilateral soreness might often indicate that it's just wear and tear, and maybe you just need to drink more water or eat more and fuel your body better, or sleep more, take a day off. I mean, that's crazy, right? Just like one day for all you runners out there. Yeah. But if you have like a pinpoint, something that's maybe a little bit more intense in a very focal spot, it lingers around after runs for several days or prevents you from running normally. I think that's a big thing. Like regardless of how significant the pain feels in terms of that, that number scale, if you don't feel like you can run with your normal gait mechanics, then you might need to be checked out just to see.
Hey guys, John knows his audience, right? So he knew what he was saying when he said take a day off. But Chris, he proved the point that we need to go to video soon so that everybody could see all three of our faces when he said that. Like, I mean, he's probably right? Like there's probably days that should have been taking off for all three of us, right, along the way here. And we just kind of force our way through that mile. But yeah.
And I think
know
there's
Katie-
something to be said for that too, right? Like you guys specifically, like 1 mile is practically like taking a day off, right? I mean, you guys log a very high number of miles on a regular week. So I guess it does kind of like fall into that comment that I made earlier. Maybe it's not always complete rest, it's activity modification, right? So it's lessening the load, even though your training plan says, hey, I've got a 10-mile run today. You don't always have to stick to that, right? Like sometimes the rest is more important than the work. And your body will kind of let you know when you might need to do that. And if you listen to it, it'll take you a long way.
I know that we've had a lot of conversations in my trips to see you about, hey, Katie, you can run. You can continue to run on this because nothing's broken. You're not going to, my last issue, nothing was going to be injured further from continuing to run. But the conversation then becomes, you just might take a little longer to get back to full strength. So, sometimes there's a choice to make there as well of how active you are through this recovery process, I guess.
Absolutely. I have that conversation with patients on a daily basis and I'm sure I'll use this catchphrase, at some other point during this, but you're going to pay for it at some point. You're either going to pay for it on the front end or you're going to pay for it on the back end, right? So the trade-off is you could completely stop your activity and let your body, completely unload, and maybe it does calm down a little faster. The negative of that is that you miss out on your sport. You miss out on the thing that you love to do, which has more than just physical benefits. I think that's well established, right? Like our happiness is tied to the activities that we enjoy doing. So that's the trade-off. You might go away, your injury might go away a little faster, but you miss out on the things that you love to do. Or you can continue to participate in some level while we work on it. And the the trade-off there again is it, the downside is it may take a little longer to go away, but the upside is that you get to play or run or cycle or swim or whatever it happens to be. You get to do the thing that you love to do.
Yeah, John, I think you hit on something there earlier that I know is true for me, and I'm sure it's true for Adam and Katie as well. But when we're running and we have a little bit of pain while we're on a run, we'll find every excuse in the world to be able to continue running. Because it might go away after the run, or we might not have any pain while we're running, but then after we sit down, we're a little stiff and sore. So for those of us who like to make excuses so that we can continue to run, is there any advice or guidance you would give us on when maybe we should be listening to our body a little bit more and not making those excuses?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the general rule is similar. I think that, look, being an athlete's not comfortable, right? So if you're trying to push yourself to a level that's challenging, you're gonna not feel great sometimes. So I think it ultimately comes down to when you get to that point where enough is enough, and that point is different for every person. I mean, I've seen some folks on race day that I'm not even sure how they even got to the start line, much less completed the marathon. It's like, wow, pretty terribly. But they obviously gritted it out and got it done. And maybe at some point weeks later they got to a point where they couldn't do that, and they needed to get some help. I think Katie nailed it with her comment earlier of if there's nothing structurally wrong, you're just dealing with pain. And if you can tolerate the pain, then you can do your thing, right? Like, it's completely different. Again, if we're talking about like you have a stress fracture in your foot or your hip or your shin or something, and you like, it's not that bad, I can keep running. Like, you can make that worse, right? And you take something that is managed with activity modification and some unloading of that structure, and you make it a surgical case because you've destroyed the bone. That's a completely different story than working through some tendonitis or tendinosis or muscle tendon types of things that structurally everything's fine. It's just a little inflamed and irritated. So I don't know that I really gave you a great answer, but I think ultimately it just kind of depends, right? And you'll know when you get to that point.
John, are there certain symptoms that people might be able to identify in themselves and know that they need to stop running immediately and seek medical attention other than physical therapy? Or is physical therapy always like a good place to start?
I mean, I think in general, physical therapy is usually the best place to start. Obviously, that doesn't include like intense chest pain and shortness of breath
Right.
and like systemic things, right? Like if you're having a heart attack while running, that's physical therapy is probably not the best place to go. But if it's a musculoskeletal type of injury, I think we're the best first stop, honestly, because I think a lot of people don't realize this. And for the listeners outside of Maryland, I don't know what the state regulations are in your state, but in the state of Maryland, physical therapists can order imaging. So if you come to me or one of my colleagues at Elite Performance and we evaluate you and feel that your injury, warrants an image, an X-ray, an MRI, or something like that, we can order that. So the advantage is we can order all those tests, but we can also do a full biomechanical assessment to find out what are the things that are causing this, and let's go ahead and start treating it. And do the things that we talked about, where we're going to compromise and meet you in the middle and say, hey, like, I think you can still run, but let's maybe make these changes and do it in this way and not that while we keep working on this. And then, my philosophy is if we have worked on something, and it certainly depends on the injury, but you have kind of a timeline in your head as a physical therapist and a typical response time and how a patient is going to respond to treatment. And if it doesn't seem like they're responding the way that you would expect, then I don't hesitate. I have physicians that I contact, and we have a nice referral network that we've established. So we can get you to the next step if need be.
So I know all three of us hosts were excited to have you on for multiple different reasons. And I know the next topic is going to be Katie's most exciting reason to have you on. But I want to talk a little bit about one of like my biggest fears in running, and that is getting injured. So injury prevention a little bit. So, how much of running injury prevention is actually within like a runner's control? Obviously, if I go out there and I don't stretch and I just sprint down the neighborhood road, I have a greater, chance of like tearing my hamstring off like that. But like if we're being smart and we're training, how much of it is in my control to not get injured?
Yeah, I think a good portion. I say to people all the time, look, as an athlete, there's an inherent risk of injury, right? Like we do all the things and try to, minimize that risk as much as possible. But ultimately, there's no way of completely eliminating the risk of injury. So I like to use analogies a lot. So hopefully you don't mind that. So the analogy that I use for this topic is a gumball machine. All right. So picture a gumball machine in a restaurant or a store, like put the quarter in and it's all multicolored, right? There's tons of different colors in there. You put your quarter in, you spin the thing, and a gumball comes out, right? So there is a possibility that a red gumball comes out of the machine, right? So imagine a red gumball is your inherent risk of injury, just as being a human being in general. People get sick, they get hurt. It's just a part of life, right? There's an inherent risk. So what we try to do is minimize that risk as much as possible. So as an athlete, you're automatically at a higher risk than the general population. So imagine a slightly higher percentage of red gumballs in that machine. So when you put your quarter in, there's a slightly higher chance that a red one comes out because there's more red ones in there, right? Then we start to factor in different biomechanical issues, right? You have limited mobility, limited strength, limited stability. There's genetic predispositions. There's all things like that. Each one of those is throwing more and more red gumballs into the gumball machine, right? So that's where the physical therapy part of it comes in my opinion. We want to assess the way that your body moves and pick out asymmetries or deficiencies. And we start chipping away at eliminating those mobility deficits, the strength deficits, the stability deficits, and preparing your body as best we can to handle the load that you're putting it through, right? So we're trying to remove some of those red gumballs from the gumball machine. Does that make sense? A decent analogy?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes. Yeah. So what I picked up is when I get a gumball next time, I do not want red. No red gumballs.
Exactly. Yeah. We don't want red ones. Yep.
So John, just continuing on with that analogy, what are the biggest mistakes you see runners making that add red gumballs to that gumball machine?
Not strength training.
Did you hear that, boys?
Listen, I asked John, was it Sunday that I asked you to be on the podcast?
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So guess what I did? Strength trained on Monday and Tuesday, 2 days in a row.
Let's go.
I said, listen, he told me he was going to do upper body on Monday and he was going to do lower body on Tuesday. I said, hey, are you doing this because John's coming on? You can't tell him that you've been strength training.
Yeah. I
Quote,
thought you looked
unquote.
a little more muscular. You sounded it too. You sounded definitely strong.
I appreciate that. See, it was me barking in the background.
Oh yeah, somebody just pulled down my driveway. Now my dog's going crazy.
So I've been trying to tell if for any of our listeners who've heard other podcasts, they'll typically say, now I know this will make Katie happy, but I really need to start strength training. I just follow my plan and I'm supposed to strength train, so I strength train, and it has made a world of difference
Mhm.
in my experience. So how important do you think, John, strength training is for runners in case people are not taking my word for it? And what areas of the body should they prioritize?
So, how important is it? Vary. Which areas should they focus on? All of them. Is that good?
Perfect.
Yeah,
No, I mean,
Mic drop.
yeah, exactly. I think obviously the core and the posterior chain, the hips, hamstrings, they get a lot of the glory. And I think that they are very key ingredients to staying healthy. And honestly, that's in pretty much all sports, not just running, but their focal points. But I think runners underestimate how important arm strength is in running also. And I always tell people that, may not necessarily believe me. I'll say, all right, go do 100 straight push-ups and 100 straight pull-ups and then go run and tell me what it feels like until your arms come back to life, because it doesn't feel right. I'm telling you right now that your stride will not be the same if your arms are exhausted. And I think there's a lot of benefit to that. Are they as important as the lower half? I don't think so in reality, but it's not something that you should completely neglect.
Well, since you mentioned analogies, I think you and your partner Brian are both big on the analogies because he
Yeah.
told me one time when I was in to see him after, it must have been shortly after running JFK, probably my second time, and I don't remember which time it was, but I remember feeling so sore, and that's obvious, but I said I didn't feel like I came off the trail part and hit the towpath. I just felt like I didn't have enough juice in my legs, like I was running out of energy already. And I said, "Well, what will help me be able to cover the trail and then not be so sore in my quads afterwards and not be so like taxed for the rest of the race?" And he's like, "Strength training." I'm like, "Strength training is going to help that?" And he's like, "Yeah." He said, "It's like having a 4-cylinder engine and you asking it to go from 0 to 60 versus driving a V8 or something." I don't know if those are the exact size engines he was talking about, but he said,
That sounds right.
if you
Yeah.
have a if you're driving a V8, you're gonna go from 0 to 60, but you're gonna use a lot less energy, and from your the engine's just more prepared to do that, and that's what
It's
strength
more
training is gonna
efficient.
do for you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I just thought
Ex-
that was one analogy that I definitely remembered when you brought up that.
Yep. Brian's a car guy, so he definitely tends to gravitate towards the car analogies. I stay away from those because I don't know how cars work other than just putting the key in the ignition. And I drive an electric vehicle now, so like I just have to get in the car and it's on. As long as I have my phone or my watch, I don't even have to do anything. So yeah, I don't know how it works.
Hey, John, so if somebody only has like a limited time per week to do strength training, I guess first of all, would you recommend it to be done on like harder workout days? And then like what are maybe like 4 or 5 key exercises they should be doing if they only have like, 30 minutes or so?
Yeah. I'll talk on the timing first, like when to do it.
Yeah, hey,
Um,
I don't know if you noticed, but like I love to ask like two-part questions and then
I
let you
I love
figure
that.
out like how to yeah,
Yep.
okay.
I'm all for it. I like multi-step process. I can follow them. But just in case, remind me what the second question is after I finish this one, all right?
If
So
only
the
only if I remember.
the so I think this is another example of the it depends answer. And I think ultimately it's trial and error for the individual to figure out what works best for them. I've had clients that really don't want to strength train on a harder running day, whether that is, the harder work day for them is the speed work, or it's the long run, or something in their program that just is more challenging for them. They don't want to, their term, waste their energy by strength training because they will, ready and prepared. They want their legs to be under them when it comes time to run. Other people say, look, my legs are going to be trashed after this running workout either way. So I would rather just completely trash them and then take it easy the following day. Whereas, the other person might say, I would rather not work out on this hard day, and I'll just do a workout when it's a rest day for running. And ultimately, my recommendation would be to try each of those and determine what makes your body feel the best, because I've seen success both ways. At the end of the day, I think, strength training, if it's programmed properly, can be more of a builder than to your debt, or breaking you down further, if you stay consistent with it and it's programmed properly.
Hey, the second part of my question was, give us like 3 or 4 key exercises for
Yep.
lower body.
Thank you for that reminder, because I definitely forgot. So I think that, obviously there's not just 3 or 4, but if I had to choose that, you're forcing me to. I think your best bang for your buck is single leg work. I think anything like a rear foot elevated split squat or a single leg RDL can target the posterior hip, like your butt and your hamstrings. Let's see, you're forcing me to pick a few. Honestly, I think some of this could be dependent on what type of race you're preparing for. If you are doing more trail or a hillier course where you're going to be uphill, downhill, adding some more quad work is going to be really important for you, because the downhill is brutal on your quads. And if your quads are not prepared to handle that, that's when you get the patellar tendonitis and the knee pain and all that kind of stuff. So, something like a heels elevated goblet squat or a step down or something like that is pretty easy to do at home or in a gym, really. I love a single leg calf raise. I'm thinking of like bang for your buck for a runner specifically. Like calves, Achilles injuries are like pretty prevalent. So, if you only have, a couple days a week and a limited amount of time to spend on it, you want to hit the areas. So a side plank leg raise hits the lateral hip, the muscles on the side of your hip pretty well, which are important for runners. So I think that was maybe 6.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's perfect. We love it. The more, the merrier. So, hey, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. I'm going to help you through it if you don't remember, but I've heard
Okay.
I've heard you use a quote multiple times about overuse injuries.
Yeah.
Do you know what quote I'm talking about? I'm not going to try the car analogy, like Katie was
Yeah.
way better remembering things than I am. So go ahead.
It's not overuse, it's underprepared. Is that the one?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. You're not doing too much. You're not doing enough. So it comes back to the statement I made earlier of like, you've got to prepare your body to handle the load that you are, putting it through. So if you want to run a ton, you need to build your muscles up and make sure that they can withstand the demands that you're putting on them. So yeah, the patellar tendonitis, the IT band friction syndrome, those types of injuries that are labeled as overuse by the traditional medical model and treated with, hey, just stop running for 4 weeks and your knee pain will go away. It's just the wrong way to approach it. You've got a deficiency somewhere, whether that is a lack of mobility or a lack of strength or a combination of both. You need to work on building those things up so your knee is more supported and not under more stress than it should be. So the answer is actually to do more, but do more of the right things.
John, hey, I'm going to switch it up a little bit, and I'm
Okay.
going to ask you to try to help settle a debate that
Love
we
that.
often get into either on a long run or when we're hanging out after run club.
Wait, hold on a second. You can talk when you run?
Yeah.
I can't do that. Oh man. This is wow. I need to hang out with you guys.
We're
Figure this
actually
out.
running right now. We're running right now as we record this. And
Oh wow. That is wild. Okay. All right. Now go ahead. Ask your question.
Yeah. So one of the things that we like to talk about or debate is the importance of stretching and whether you should do it and whether you should do it before a run or after a run. From you, the injury prevention expert, physical therapist, where do you weigh in on this issue?
Yeah. I think that at the end of the day, it comes down to the red gumballs. Is mobility one of your areas of insufficiency? I probably in my day-to-day caseload probably run into more people that are hypermobile than hypomobile. So hyper meaning that they have too much joint mobility. They're too mobile. Their joints are a little sloppy, and it puts a lot of stress on their joints, a lot of strain on their muscles because their muscles have to work extra hard to stabilize that mobility. Stretching for them is not a great thing. They already have too much. We don't want to give them more, right? If you are a mobility problem, if you are just stiff as a board, then I think mobility exercises are important for you. Notice I said mobility exercises and not stretches. So I think, don't get me wrong, like stretching, kind of like the classic version of stretching, certainly has its place. But there's been plenty of studies out there that have shown that your range of motion, your mobility improves better with loaded strength training and sort of myofascial release technique. So that's like lacrosse ball, foam rolling, Theragun, like muscle manipulation types of things, and loaded exercise through a deep range of motion over like a static stretch. The common like, all right, I'm going to bend down, touch my toes for 30 seconds. And again, not to say that that's a complete waste of time, but we're all busy, and I'm a bang for your buck kind of guy. And I don't think, laying down for 15 minutes and doing static stretching is the best bang for your buck if you're trying to improve your mobility.
I think that was really helpful because I feel like I benefit too when I do more mobility work than the static stretching, but
Yeah.
I didn't have any basis for that other than just, my own experience. So it's good to hear that there actually is research that backs that up.
Yeah, and I think you just nailed it too. Like if you would have told me, hey, I feel so much better if I, after a 10-mile run, lay down on my living room floor and do a nice, deep, long stretch for 15 minutes, I wouldn't tell you that's stupid. I would say, all right, great. Like you found something that works for you. I'm not going to discourage that because everybody is a little bit different. My recommendations are going to be, if you haven't found the thing that really helps you, then this is what the studies show. The masses are going to respond better, more consistently to this type of work, but it doesn't mean that people that stretch are doing it wrong. They just found what works for them, and I would never discourage that unless they said something completely asinine. Then I would just tell them.
So, first of all, when Adam earlier, like before we even got to this segment, he said, before we go run, we stretch and then we go out and run. And that's when we needed video because the look on my face, I was like, who is he
Wait.
trying to fool?
He's never
When
stretched, has
was
he?
the last time you stretched before a run?
That's the first
Never.
mile.
That's
Wait,
right.
I said that?
Yes, you said, yeah, rewind the tape. All our listeners, go back. It was one of the early questions. He mentioned
was-
stretching before going for a run.
That was
We'll
that was
put that
Chris.
quote in the show notes.
Okay, to be
Oh.
fair, I don't stretch. Okay, I never, I don't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
No, so I am going off
I wouldn't
script a little
argue with you on that, right? Like there are some people that need to spend 20 minutes on a foam roller and a lacrosse ball for their body to feel good and ready to go. I wouldn't discourage them from doing that, but I also wouldn't discourage you. Like you obviously have had, knock on wood, a long history of success. And, sure, have you had some occasional aches and pains and wear and tear types of injuries? Yeah, absolutely. But like anybody that runs the type of mileage that you do, it's going to have those kinds of things. So you found what works for you. Would I necessarily recommend that to the masses? Probably not. But I'm not going to like argue with you necessarily over, do you need to change your routine? It's working for you. So why change it?
Well, see, I will argue with him. And
Okay, fair enough. You're
your-
allowed.
but
That's
no,
your favorite thing to do.
that's right. It's entertaining. Anyway, but that kind of leads into like what I was going to go off script and ask is that I am hyper mobile. Like every time I have an injury and I've had to get an MRI or I've come see you guys, I'm like bendy and flexible, and
Yeah.
that's a bad thing because it, like you said, my muscles have to work harder to keep like my patella in line and things like that.
Sure.
But I would say Adam is not that way. I would say he is hypomobile or maybe normal. I don't know. Is there an in between? But
Sure.
so
Yeah,
would
absolutely. There are
stretching
normal people.
potential would yeah. So would stretching potentially help him and it's just not hurting him that he's not doing it? Or do you think
Hey,
it
wait,
it
John,
doesn't really
John,
matter?
before you answer that, I don't think you're allowed to discuss your patients to other people. So let's-
Man. I saw the consent pop up on the screen earlier. If you're still on this recording, you're giving consent. No, I think in general for the normals of us, I'm going to go back to the strength training. I think that in reality, when you're talking about bang for your buck, yeah, I just don't think that stretching has been associated with injury prevention nearly as much as we used to think, and not nearly as much as strength has been associated with it. There are certain areas of the body for a distance runner that need to move really, and if you have a deficiency in one of those areas, it would certainly be helpful to you to try to correct that in some way, shape, or form. But again, I go back to the loaded exercise, and myofascial release is the most effective
Right.
over stretching. So if you're doing some eccentric loaded exercises for your hip flexor to improve your hip extension, I think you're checking the box there because you're getting bang for your buck there. You're getting improved mobility and you're adding strength to it at the same time. That's efficiency.
And would you say any of that changes as we get older? Is there any part of this for injury prevention or just longevity that changes as we're entering like the master's age, like 40 and over?
I would say not really. I think the ingredients are still the same, but the dosage might be, depending on the person, might start to change a little bit potentially. But I mean, take running out of it. Strength has been heavily tied to functional ability in the aging population. It really is like the one thing that is the biggest indicator of how well you'll function later in life if you can maintain some level of strength. It's great for your health and great for your longevity and great for you to be functional at an older age. and not just sitting around.
So when we're talking about strength training for runners, are we trying to do small amount of reps and a ton of weight, or are we doing, a lot of reps, a little bit of weight, or is that again different for everybody?
I think it can be somewhat different for different people and where they are in their training cycle. And for the training cycle, in this case, what I mean by is like, how close are you to your goal race, right? So I know a lot of people run lots of races throughout the year, but if your focal point, your primary race for the year, your big goal race, you kind of build your year around that. And there's kind of think of almost blocks of schedule where when you are, close to a year out of the race, maybe you have look at it like a sliding scale. So like you are going to focus on strength work a little bit more, and you're just trying to kind of maintain your running base. And then as you get closer to race day, that sliding scale starts to even out. So you're doing, some strength, some running. It's about even. And then as you get closer and closer to the race day, the focus becomes more on the running, but then you're transitioning into, I'm still staying in the gym, but it's really more about just kind of maintaining the strength gains that I've made. So as a general rule, I would say I don't, it's pretty rare that I recommend high reps for a runner, because you're already doing a high rep activity. I mean, how many steps do you take in a 10-mile run, right? Like that's a lot of reps and a lot of like consistent movement of the same pattern. So part of the advantage of strength training is kind of loading your muscles in a different way and different movement patterns and trying to prepare your body a little better. So I tend to gravitate more towards the lower rep, higher weight. And honestly, I think a lot of people it's a common misconception that lifting heavy is really stressful. In all honesty, lower weight, but for higher reps, can ultimately be exponentially more stressful than like a heavy deadlift for 1 or 2 reps. Because it comes down to a simple math problem. Like if you lift 100 pounds which would be like considered a lightweight for, let's say, a squat or a deadlift, and you lift that for 3 sets of 10, each set you're lifting 1,000 pounds. On the flip side, you could do a 350-pound deadlift, which might be, depending on the person, considered like decently heavy. Let's even say 400. Like that's a pretty good deadlift, and you do it for 1 or 2 reps. Let's say 2 reps, you only lifted 800. So in total weight, you actually like put more stress on your muscles by lifting the 100 pounds 10 times. And 10 isn't even really considered a high rep workout, right? But I'm just using that as simple math. People, don't really realize that what's considered low weight, high reps can actually be a little bit more stressful than the 1 to 2 or lower sets and rep schemes sometimes. But more than anything, it's about training your muscles in a different way and keeping them fresh.
Yeah. So John, now you gave me even more metrics I need to start keeping track of in my spreadsheet.
Yeah, there you go.
So
I love a good spreadsheet.
Hey, to answer your question, John, I take about 13,000 steps during a 10-mile run.
13,000. All righty.
I think so, yeah, pretty sure.
What's your cadence on it? That's a legitimate question. What is your cadence sitting like on average?
Like 177, 178.
Man, you're a rock star. I love
I
that.
try to be. Chris is going to ask you the next question, and it's exactly how I'm feeling right now. Okay, so go ahead, Chris, ask it.
So this is really a question for me, but it's starting to apply to Adam.
Okay.
What do you think is the biggest mistake that as older runners we're making when we try to train like our younger selves? Maybe I just defined the problem.
No, I mean, I think, look, there's obviously some physiological changes to our body as we age, and I think really only as we age do we fully understand that. You know, I don't think that I was, even though I had the knowledge when I was 25 that that was going to happen, I don't know that I like fully agreed with it. But now that I'm 42, I can certainly, you know, I can certainly believe that there are some physiological changes and your body does feel different. But again, I think it ultimately comes down to appropriate progression. It's not an activity specific problem. You know, yeah, it's rare that I'm going to say you shouldn't do something. It's more, how do you progress it, and do you progress it appropriately? Like, I think running, it can be very good for you, but if I like stopped this podcast right now and decided to go run 30 miles, it would not be good for me, because that's overload. Like, my body is not prepared to do that, right? But if I set my mind to it and I built a little bit each week, each month, over the year, I could do that, and my body would be fine with it. But yeah, it's the progressive overload, and I'll do the same analogy for the gym, right? Like, deadlift 100 pounds might seem incredibly outrageous to you right now, but and it would be if I took you to the gym right now and threw it on the bar and said pick it up, right? That's inappropriate. That's dangerous. But if you start at an appropriate weight and progressively overload it appropriately, a 400-pound deadlift is not a problem.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. One of the things I really have enjoyed as I've gotten older is the runner age group, and just embracing, sort of being okay with being decent in my age group and not trying to keep up with the 20-year-olds and the high school kids anymore. But it's good to know that I don't have to give up yet either.
Yeah,
So, thanks.
absolutely. And another thing that you need to think about is that you may not be able to keep up with the elite 20-year-olds, but you're still doing a heck of a lot better than the average 20-year-old, right? Like, so you can do a lot of things that some 20-year-olds can't do, and keep doing it as long as you can. One of my favorite quotes that I use all the time comes from my great grandfather. He died he died 2 weeks shy of his 102nd birthday. And whenever someone asked him, like, what is the key to, like, and he was fully functional to the end, what's the key? And he said, never stop moving. Just keep moving. That's it. That's all you got to do. Just keep moving. And I think that sums up, like, my philosophy as a physical therapist. Like, movement is medicine. It is essential for the body to feel good and be healthy. And man, I just feel like we've gotten so far from that in the traditional medical model, where we're like pushing medications and telling people to stop doing things until they stop hurting, when in reality we just need to keep moving, because it's good for our bodies. We're meant to move. We're not meant to be stagnant, stationary all day. So yeah, I mean, it's the only thing that has pretty much been proven in every clinical study to help with, just name the disease, is exercise. There are no side effects. You can't name a medication that doesn't have a side effect. And you also can't name a medication that is good for every single disease out there. Exercise is medicine, and it is the most essential pill that we take on it. Keep moving.
Okay, John. Well, I'm going to need you to come have a serious discussion with my children because I was just I was just trying to explain to them. They were complaining going on a half-mile walk with me while Adam was out running.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, we need to get more movement in our lives. We need exercise. Why? Why do we have to do that? Because anyway,
Yeah.
all the things. We don't have
Hey,
another hour on the podcast to keep going on.
Right. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
you need John to come over and have a parenting clapping moment. That's right. Over.
Yes, we do.
Get
we
moving
do.
now. Yeah. That's all you need.
Exactly. Well, I do think we're getting ready to wrap things up here, but
I'm just
had a
getting started. I'm
question.
having a great time.
Well, listen, when I go to PT and afterwards Adam will say, "How was physical therapy?" I'll be like, "Well, I just talked to John for an hour. That's basically what we did."
Yeah.
I mean, we never run out of things to talk about. So I've
Never.
thoroughly enjoyed this, and we really could go for probably 2 or 3 times as long. But I was thinking of something while you were talking, and does a runner need to be injured to benefit from seeing a physical therapist?
No. And honestly, I think that's something that I really pushed early in my career. And not that I've gotten away from it, but it's just not as like on the forefront. But I really would like to start kind of promoting and pushing it a little bit more again, which is like, again, here's my analogies. And this is my one car analogy. When, like with your car, you take it to your mechanic every 5,000 miles to get an oil change, right? And routine maintenance. They give it a once over, make sure it doesn't have any issues, and send you on your way, right? And like, why don't we do that for our bodies, right? Because there are things, going back to that red gumball analogy, there are biomechanical insufficiencies or deficiencies, asymmetries that we could pick up on through an assessment and give you some things to work on that would hopefully help lower that risk of injury and reduce the number of red gumballs in the machine, right? So does that look like an every 6 month assessment, a once a year assessment? I don't know, kind of pick your poison, whatever works for you. But I guess you could use the dentist as an analogy there too. Like we go get our teeth cleaned there twice a year. Yeah, why not see your therapist and just check in on things? And I think as an athlete, it's even more important because we put our bodies through a lot, and small things can add up. And I think I'm kind of going back to an earlier question, was like what like me and my staff do differently than like a general physical therapist for an athlete. I think treating athletes is hard because athletes are the best compensators. They are really, really good. They're athletic. They move really well, and if they don't move really well, they figure out how to move around it, and they hide their deficiencies really well. So you have to be really nitpicky and really thorough to find those subtle little things that add up to big things over 13,000 steps, like Adam was saying earlier. You have this, like, imagine a teeny tiny pebble in your shoe for 13,000 steps, how sore your foot's going to be at the end of that, right? It's like a minuscule thing, very, very small. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't even notice it's there. But when you step on that thing for 13,000 steps, it adds up and becomes pretty sore. So little things are a big deal, and you have to kind of treat them that way in some way, shape, or form. But also not catastrophize it and like stop moving because you're concerned about it, you know?
Right. Yeah. Well, you and the team at EPI are definitely a part of our team and how Adam and I stay able to do the everyday running that we do. And yeah, it's just an integral part of our performance.
And we appreciate that. The like-minded people. It's a mutual respect. I want to do everything that we can to keep you guys with your feet on the road and on the trail, and because you love to do it and you have a passion and you're doing great things.
Yeah, and part of the issue is with me is that I don't wait. Um, I have a coach, and it's not Adam, as he likes to tell people. But anyway, and last time when I did hurt my knee, few months ago now, that she was like, "Well, I applaud you for getting into physical therapy immediately." Like, I just knew something was wrong, and I had John on the phone
Yep.
immediately. Like, I got to get in. I'm broken. Please do whatever you can to see me soon. And I was in within what, a week, a few days probably. So
Yeah, we do our
we
best
appreciate you.
to try to make that happen when somebody when somebody calls us in that situation. It's not often that we're gonna make you wait. We're gonna move some things around and try to accommodate people as quickly as we can, because it's important, right? Like
Right.
calling a physical therapy clinic when you're in the middle of a season or you're 3 weeks away from race day and they tell you that you can't be seen for 2.5 or 3 weeks, like that does you no good. And we don't do that.
Hey, so I know Katie talked about like when we come in, and it really is like we'll go to like each other's appointments, and not only do we get physical therapy, but we get therapy and marriage therapy while we're there. So like it is like it is
Paralegal.
just yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's really a lot of fun. But hey, before we let you go, I just thought of something else, and Katie helped me remind me of it, but I have it on here as well that we need to talk about. And that is a little bit about like what you do for the community at EPI. And a big part of that for us is through Lock to Lock. I know when I came there in October of 2022, and then that we had just had Lock to Lock before that, and that was our first year. It was a brand new race, still real small. I was still coming to you in January, and I texted you, I think, like this long book about becoming like the potential big time premier sponsor of our small town local race, and I think your response was something like, absolutely not. And I think I cried a little bit, and then like you like instantly replied back like, "Okay, we'd love to. Let me talk to Thomas and see what we can do." But like at first I was like, "Absolutely not." Like I guess I shot my shot, but it didn't work. I was like, so but yeah,
Uh,
so but no, so for the last 3 years, and then this year included, um Elite Performance Institute has been our premier sponsor of Lock to Lock, which is September 12th. And, we couldn't do what we do with that race without your support. So we truly do thank you for that aspect of what you guys do. And I know you guys are very involved with like Smithsburg teams and other little league teams in the area. Do you want to touch on any of that real quickly, what you guys do for the community?
yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, with you guys, I mean it's a no brainer. Look, like you have been so supportive of us, and like I said earlier, it's a mutual respect between all of us. We love every minute that we get to spend with you guys, and I don't know, like Adam, we've talked about this before. Like you'll just talk to anybody, and you just love to like get their story, and you love to encourage them and get them into running and support them in any way, shape, or form. And I think Katie has followed suit with that, and what you guys are doing with Tulo is really powerful. You're impacting a lot of people, and it's an honor to be a part of it. And we certainly appreciate you thinking of us and allowing us to be a small part. I don't know that I agree with your statement of you couldn't do it without us, because you could definitely do that, but I appreciate being a part of it. And in general, that's kind of our approach. Thomas and I both grew up in small towns in North Carolina, and I don't know, the community the local community and supporting the local community is super important to both of us. So that's where we choose to spend, most of our like quote unquote marketing dollars. We don't do a lot of like paid marketing outside of just supporting local sports organizations because it's obviously a passion of ours. I think there are so many life lessons that are learned on the field, court, road, trail, whatever your playing surface happens to be. And the more kids that we can help stay involved or get involved and grow a passion for an active lifestyle, it just helps not only us, but it helps all of us, right? Like the healthier we are as a community, the better we are. So, yeah, we want to support that in any way that we can and try to take advantage of any opportunities that we can to support those types of organizations.
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of people that benefit from your support, Thomas's support, and the rest of the crew at EPI. I think when I first came there, it was you and Thomas and Brian, right? And how many?
Yeah.
What's your staff now? Like, give us an idea of how much you've grown in the last 4 years.
We have 7 staff members now. We have 3 other clinicians other than me. So Brian Pikarowski is our PTA. He's been with us the longest, and we have Megan Byers and Brandon Stoller. All of them are absolutely fantastic. It's been super, super rewarding to watch Megan and Brandon specifically because they're both PTs. It's been really rewarding to watch their caseload grow and them start to develop these same types of relationships with their clients that, Brian and I have been fortunate enough to develop with the two of you. I don't know, it's so impactful and so rewarding to have your clients friends. So it's fun to see them starting to do great things. And we also have Thomas, obviously, who is my business partner, doing the strength side of things. And we have another strength coach, Isaac, who has been a huge part of our staff for the last couple of years. And the most important piece, the glue that holds it all together, is Keely. She is what we call our client experience specialist, which is basically a fancy term for she does everything. So like she's going to be the first point of contact if you're calling for an appointment or texting to inquire about performance training or physical therapy or anything that we do within our business. She's going to be the person that responds to that. And she does our marketing. She does so many things on the back end to make us run smoothly and successfully. So she is the glue that holds it all together. But it's pretty wild to think about like where we've come from. It's fun to reminisce on every now and then. Like when we first started, I had a fold up massage table that I carried into people's houses almost 10 years ago. And now we have a staff of 7 and yeah, it's been a wild ride and it's people like y'all that have helped support us along the way and have been the most important part of our growth. Again, we don't spend a lot of money on marketing. We rely on people like y'all to spread the good word and just sing our praises because you've had a positive experience. And we try to just keep delivering that positive experience to everybody that we cross paths with so that they sing from the mountaintops as well. So it's worked out for us so far, and hopefully we can keep it rolling.
Yeah, anytime any one of my runner friends like stubs their toe or like grabs their hamstring, I'm like, call John, he's got you,
Yeah.
He'll get you in there.
Well, now you're going to have to say, call EPI because
That's
Megan
right.
and Brandon
Yeah.
can help you also,
That's right.
Yeah.
Where is EPI located?
We are in Hagerstown on Leitersburg Pike. For the people that are in the area and familiar with the area, prior to us being in the location, it used to be Snavely's Nursery. which is kind of a local staple. So most people that grew up here know where that is. But yeah, we're in the old Snavely's Nursery building off of Leitersburg Pike, about a mile up from the Leitersburg Cinemas, kind of between the Leitersburg Cinemas and the Lowe's.
That's a good description. You will have Chris put your website and phone number in the show notes so people can get in contact with you if they want more information or need to schedule an appointment with you. So, John, we truly appreciate spending some time with us and talking to us. I think our listeners are going to get a lot out of this, and a ton of good information. And you guys are truly doing amazing work at EPI, keeping runners going, keeping athletes going, building that community, just giving people the knowledge they need in order to stay healthy and stay moving. So thanks again, buddy.
I appreciate you guys.
That's all for today's episode of Tales on the Towpath. Thanks for joining us on another run down memory lane and along the C&O. If you've enjoyed the show, be sure to follow, share it with a friend, and leave us a review. Until next time, keep your pace steady and your stories flowing.